So today I'm going to be sharing with you a few tips on how to prepare your home to get it sold fast for the most amount of money possible right here in DC, Maryland, or Virginia. And not only am I going to be telling you, I'm actually going to be showing you by walking you through this beautiful home that's currently listed for sale. So make sure you stick around to the end because the last tip is actually the most important. And if you fail to do this one thing properly, you probably aren't going to get the price you want for the home, and it can take a lot longer than necessary to get it sold. And we're getting after it right now. So if you stumbled across this video, I'm assuming that's most likely because you're interested in DC area real estate, whether that be selling a home, buying a home, or you're just curious about the DC real estate market at large. If that's the case, you're at the right place. Feel free to subscribe below. My name is Bashir, and I get calls, texts, emails from folks just like you looking to either sell or buy a home in the DC metro area. So if you have plans on doing that in the next 30, 60, 90 days, or even more, you could always feel free to reach out to me, shoot me a call, text, email. All my contact details are below in the description. So here's how I want to approach this. And here's how I look at selling a home or prepping a home to get sold. I look at things on a points system, and I'm going to be using that point system today. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to be using a scale of 1 to 10 of level of importance. So 1 meaning it's not really important. You don't really have to do it to get your home sold. And 10 meaning it's extremely crucial and you absolutely need to do it if you want to sell for the most money in the shortest amount of time feasible. And then of course, everything else between the numbers 1 through 10 on that scale. Because, some people are going to have budget constraints and also time constraints, and they're not going to be able to do every single thing on this list. Now, there's so many things you can do to prepare your home for sale, but today I'm only going to be focusing on things that I think move the needle towards getting the home sold. So I'm probably going to leave some things out. If you think of anything else that's necessary, you can feel free to drop that in the comments, but I'm just going to focus on the main movers today. Let's start from the exterior of the property and then we'll work our way in. So we're just going to head outside. And the first thing is actually not the exterior of the property. It's actually the sidewalks. Now I know the sidewalks are, they're not your property, probably not your responsibility as well, but it's the pathway that leads up to your home. You want to make sure it's free of any debris, free of any trash, free of any dog feces. I mean, I was at a property a few days ago and there was literally dog feces right in front of the property. So unfortunately, there's no way to track down the person who let their dog poop in front of your yard and not pick it up. That responsibility, unfortunately, falls on us. So, you want to get the home sold, we got to do what we got to do and make sure it's clear. Fortunately, people do stuff like that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give clean sidewalks about a 7 out of 10. Moving on to the actual property. So you want to make sure your landscaping is in order. All the bushes are trimmed. The plants, they're all trimmed neatly. The grass is cut. We've had snow over the past couple of days, so you can't really see the landscaping, but you want to make sure everything is in order in front of the home because this is the first impression that people get before they actually go into the home, right? If you have any damaged gutters, you want to make sure that's in order as well, right? And also your front porch. You want to make sure it's free of any tools because this is an area where things could tend to accumulate over the years, right? So you want to make sure that's clean and free of any excess furniture. So we move on to the interior of the property. Now, let me just say this. This home is staged nicely and the home looks almost perfect. But I would say this, your home does not have to look this perfect when you're selling it, okay? I don't want anyone thinking that I'm implying that you have to go spend 150, 200K and do a renovation of this caliber. It's absolutely not necessary, but I'll get into that in a second. So just going back to the exterior, you also want to make sure if you have any shrubs or landscaping in front of your home, you want to make sure that those are trimmed because they can actually block how much natural light comes through the window. Now, this is a, DC row house, so you're not going to see that very often. So we don't want the natural sunlight to get affected because it actually gives an illusion that the home does not receive as much natural sunlight as it should. You can solve that issue with just making sure the bushes are trimmed. So overall grade for exterior maintenance, I'll give that an 8 out of 10. Now, the third item on the list before the aesthetic of the home is smells and odors. You want to make sure that your home is smelling nice or it has no smell at all. You don't want any heavy fragrances like those wall plugins that people usually put in the home. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them if the smell is not overbearing. And of course, we want to get rid of smoke odors or anything of that nature. Because I've seen people literally walk into a home and walk back out because maybe the home had a strong pet smell or there was a heavy smell of smoke in the home. So this home could have been their dream home, but they just couldn't get over the smell. I would give that a 9 out of 10. It's very important to make sure that the home smells right. So the next thing, let's talk about staging. Now, when I say staging, I'm not referring to hiring a professional stager or staging company to completely stage a home to make it look like this. That is not what I'm referring to at all. In fact, you can even use your own furniture that's currently in your home to stage your property and make it look presentable. So when I say staging, I'm referring mostly to presentation. Because here's a cold hard truth. I've seen homes sell, empty homes, sell in 2 days with 10 offers over asking price. So am I implying not to stage your home? Absolutely not. Here's where I think staging really moves the needle. Let's say you're in a certain price point in a particular neighborhood where homes aren't really flying off the shelf, right? The homes that come on the market, they're not selling in a day or two. Staging could be of great benefit. If you have a lot of, tricky, awkward spaces in your home, like if you have small bedrooms and it's just going to give buyers a hard time for them to visualize how they can utilize those spaces, then I think staging comes in handy. I'll give you an example. I was helping a client sell a home once, and one of the bedrooms upstairs it was on the smaller side, DC row houses. A lot of times you see like these office type bedrooms, and we had a lot of people come through the home, and we got a few complaints about one of the bedrooms being too small. Now, we didn't stage that particular bedroom, but when we kept receiving this feedback, I called the stager who helped us stage the home, and I'm like, listen, we got to absolutely stage this bedroom, right? Because I think people thought a queen size bed could not fit in there. And I knew a queen size bed could fit in there because while the owners were still living there, they had a queen size bed in the room. So anyway, long story short, we staged it with the queen size bed and the home. The next buyer who walked through the home, they bought the home. Now, I can't say for certain that the reason why the home sold so quickly after we staged that one bedroom was because we staged it, but hey, I'll never know. So we can just conclude that it helped. So for staging and presentation, I'm gonna give that an 8.5 out of 10. Now let's talk about the floors. If you have any scuff marks on your floors, if you have hardwood floors on your main level, if you have any scuff marks, people have pets, and oftentimes pets, when they run around, their nails, it tends to scratch up the floors. If you have kids playing with toys, that tends to scratch up the floors also. And just walking on the floor with shoes over time, wear and tear, right? So if you have minor scuff marks, I'll recommend looking into some DIY treatments to get rid of those. If you have any carpeted areas in the home, you want to get those professionally cleaned. If you have any rugs, you want to get those cleaned as well. Get any odors out. Make sure they're vacuumed. There are no food droppings because, when you eat at the dining table, sometimes, the crumbs tend to get in the rugs, right? So you want to make sure that's clean. So for floors, I'm going to give that a 7.5 out of 10. Now let's talk about paint. Now, I know sometimes people like to get creative with the paint colors they have in their home. I've seen it all. I've seen a home where the entire main level was painted black. I've seen dark blue, I've seen pink, I've seen everything. And hey, let's be honest, it's your home. You can do as you please, but when it's time to actually sell, we want to appeal to a large number of buyers. We don't just want to appeal to 1 out of 20 or 30 buyers. Because paint color is a really personal thing. So we want to go with neutral colors, soft white, beige, light gray, so we can appeal to the masses. So for paint, I'm going to give that an 8.5 out of 10. Moving on. Now let's talk about personal photos on the wall, pictures of you, your kids, your spouse, and things of that nature. So we can call this depersonalizing. Now, Common knowledge is you want to take down any family photos you have and replace them with some stock art like this, because when a lot of buyers come through the home, they don't want to feel like they're intruding someone's space. They want to envision themselves living in the property. But truth be told, I have a different opinion about this. I think if anything, taking family photos down and wedding photos down is more for the privacy of the homeowner. What if you don't want your face and your kid's face to be associated with the home, right? I mean, God forbid a potential buyer who's walking through your home was, someone who you probably bullied back in high school. And now they know that you live here. And then he's looking at his spouse like, honey, I actually went to school with this guy and he used to bully me or whatever. It's payback time now that I know where he lives, right? I couldn't think of a better example, but you get the drift. Right? People might not want their faces to be associated with the home. So they'll just take down family photos and replace them with generic art like this. And also mirrors, right? So I'll give personal photos a 2 out of 10 because I've never heard of a buyer passing on a home because the homeowner had personal pictures up. It's just, I don't think it really moves a needle to get you the two things that we're talking about. Highest price possible in the shortest amount of time. Okay, now let's talk about some big items. Let's talk about the kitchen. Now we can see this kitchen the entire house has been remodeled. This is probably a 6-figure renovation. So the big question, do you have to remodel your kitchen? And the answer is absolutely not. So here's what I'll say about kitchens and spending money on expensive kitchen renovations. Look at it this way. If you spent $40,000 to get all the new quartz countertops or marble or granite, get the expensive stove, replace the cabinets, you spent 40 grand only to sell your property for $40,000 more. Have you won? And the answer is no. Like you broke even, right? Because you spent 40 to make 40. But in my opinion, you've actually lost because now you've lost the thing that was more important than money is time, right? You lost time only to break even. Not a good return on investment if you ask me. So if you're gonna spend 40 grand on a kitchen renovation, it has to be justified. Like you and your realtor have to actually sit down and do the math, right? Is this $40,000 or $50,000 kitchen renovation actually gonna net me an extra 20 or 30 or 40K more, right? You get to determine what return on investment numbers wise is a good one for you, right? But if you're spending 40 just to make 40, I would say dish the kitchen renovation. Now if your kitchen is in good shape, right? Make sure it's clean. If you have to paint some cabinets, that's okay. You might have a kitchen that's a bit dated. Maybe it's a style from the 2010s or early 2000s. That's fine. Now, the caveat becomes if you have a kitchen that's extremely dated, you have a, 60s, 70s, 80s type kitchen, then we might have to have a discussion about renovating the entire kitchen. But honestly, I like to leave an entire kitchen renovation as last resort if it's not needed. So the answer to that is it's a case-by-case basis. So I'm gonna give the kitchen a 9 out of 10. Now, as far as presentation goes for the kitchen, you wanna make sure that the countertops are lightly staged. And again, you can use your own personal items to stage the kitchen. You wanna make sure the countertops are clean. Oftentimes on our countertops, we tend to accumulate stuff like coffee makers, toasters, things like that. We wanna make sure those are packed away neatly. And any excess items that are on the countertops that don't need to be there, we can just stuff them in these drawers, or we can probably just stuff them right here in the pantry. If you have one, you can just throw everything in there so they're not in plain sight. Same thing goes if you have an island, you want to clear any excess items, any mail, bills, letters, things like that. You want to take them off and put them in drawers. So for the kitchen, it's very high up there on the scale. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Now let's head down to, okay, that's a closet. Let's head down to the basement and let's talk about that. So this is our basement right here. We've got this lovely exposed brickwork. Now, the basement, this is an area of the home. If you've lived in your home for 5, 10, 20 years, this is an area of the home where a lot of unwanted items can tend to accumulate. So you want to make sure that your basement is decluttered, because if you have a lot of items in here, tools, unused furniture, it's going to make your basement look cluttered and a lot smaller than it is. So in here we've got a bedroom that leads outside. It's a nice basement actually. They've got a full bathroom down here. Let's check this out. Now, if you have a basement where the ceiling height is rather low, I always recommend having a light color in here. Light gray, soft white, because believe it or not, it can actually make the basement appear larger than it is. If you have a basement with low ceiling height and it's painted with a dull color or dark, then it might expose the low ceiling height of the basement. And also basements tend to be dark places. So having a soft color like white or light gray, it's usually better than having it painted red or any color similar to that shade. So I'm gonna give those tasks for the basement a 6 out of 10. So let's head back upstairs. And let's head to the yard. Okay, so I'm actually not gonna go out because I don't wanna bring any snow into the property, but the yard is another place where unwanted items and unused items can accumulate. You know, tools, car parts, etc. I'm gonna close this door, it's freezing. I had a client once who we were prepping her home for sale and she lived on her own. And I see kids' toys in the back, you know, like the little cars that the kids drive in and the bicycles and things like that. And I asked her, and I was like, hey, let's just call her V. I don't want to say her real name on here. Hey, V, I see you, there's these toys in the back, these bikes and these kids' cars. Are those yours or did somebody dump them in your yard? Because to the best of my knowledge, she had kids I think they were in their 20s. And I was like, who's driving these things? I know your grown kids aren't using these. She was like, no, those actually belong to my son, you know, when he was a kid like 20 years ago or something. And I was like, wow. So that just goes to show you, when you live in a home for this long, multiple decades, you tend to accumulate stuff and just forget about it, right? So you want to make sure that the yard is cleared of any unwanted items that's just been sitting there because maybe you didn't have the time to actually trash them or give them away. So you want to make sure that's taken care of. So I'm going to give the yard presentation and organization a 7 out of 10. Because oftentimes when we're selling a home, we just have to take off that seller hat and put on the buyer hat. Like, what would a buyer think if they were to walk through my home? Or if I was a buyer walking through my home, what would I think if the yard was just filled with unwanted items? I'm probably going to be thinking, if they're not taking care of their yard, and it might not be a case that you're not taking care of your yard. You just haven't got to it, right? You're busy with work. You know, maybe we've had unfavorable weather, so you just haven't got to it, right? So if that impression of not taking care of your yard is given off, they're probably going to have the worst thoughts about what could potentially be going on the inside. Are there any hidden things that they don't want us to know about? And we just don't want to open up that can of worms, right? So let's just address what we need to address to make the home presentable. So moving on. So the next item on the list is bathrooms. Now there is a powder room down here, but I want to use a full bath because it has a shower and that parlays into what I'm going to be talking about. Okay, they've got the skylight over here. They've got more of this exposed brick. So where is let's use the hallway bathroom if they have one. I think they do. Yep, there we go. Now for our bathrooms, here's what we want to do. We want to make sure the vanity is clear of any excess items. Skincare products, toothbrushes, toothpaste. If we can, let's pack that away and have them right here. Now, it doesn't have to be completely void of those things, but again, what we're trying to avoid here is excess. So whatever we can do to make the space not feel cluttered, let's do that if possible. And if you have items like these that you can, neutral items that you can use as staging, hey, you can feel free to do that. Have like a bottle of soap out. That's not gonna hurt. And now Let's talk about the shower. Of course, we want to make sure the bathroom is clean, and we want to make sure we don't have any used washcloths that's just exposed. You know, when we use the washcloths and they're wet and they become dry and they become all shriveled up, looking like a fried piece of bacon or beef jerky or something, we want to get that out the way. You know, especially when the photographer comes in to take pictures. I've seen pictures online with homes for sale where, you know, I see underwear hanging on the rod and washcloths that's all shriveled up, and it's not a good look, you know, because before buyers come into your home, they're looking at the home and they're making judgments through the pictures. So if we just have to clear everything just to get some good pictures and put them back, then hey, so be it. Because your home could be great, but if the pictures aren't done properly, or if the area looks extremely cluttered in those photos, not a good look. So for those items for the bathroom, I'm gonna give that a 6 out of 10. Now, the next item on the list is the master bedroom, but I'm just gonna check out these rooms just to show you what we're working with here. Okay, this bedroom receives a good amount of light. Got some good closet space. Linen closet right there. And it's our laundry area. Okay, so this is the bedroom that sells the home. So we have to make sure all the I's and all the T's in the master bedroom are dotted and crossed. Let's check out this balcony here. Okay. So we've got some extremely high ceilings here. I like the work they've done here where they have these vaulted ceilings to give more height to the ceilings, and you know, they kind of opened this up. You could tell this just went all the way through, and they just opened this up to, I guess, give more light and height to more light to the bedrooms and height to the ceilings. Now for the master bedroom, we want to keep it light. We want to make sure the nightstands are free of any excess items. We want to make sure we have fresh linen on the beds. Again, this can be yours. You don't have to go out and buy any linen that you don't need. This right here is all staging. So, I mean, the most important thing is we want to keep it light because we want to give the buyers an opportunity to connect with the bedroom emotionally. So if you can pack away any excess personal items into closets, put them in drawers, that should help do the trick. We've got this walk-in closet right here. And I don't put a lot of emphasis on the closet because, you know, people have a lot of clothes in. I mean, it is just what it is. If you had clothes in a closet, I think that's even a plus for buyers because they can see how much clothes could actually fit in the closet, how many shoes could actually fit in the closet. Because sometimes homeowners are concerned and they say, hey, you know, I've got too many clothes in my closet and it's a mess in there. I'm like, listen, as long as it's clean and it's presentable, it's okay. You know, because I mean, hey, you still got to live in the home while you're trying to sell it, right? So you don't need to go emptying out your closets and putting all your clothes in storage. Now, if you have the luxury of doing that, hey, it's cool. But if you don't, it's not going to be a deal breaker. Like no one's not going to buy your house because the homeowner had too many clothes in her closet. It's not going to happen. So for the bathroom, same rules apply. We want to take down excess personal items, used washcloths, stuff like that. You know, we can put up some fresh towels like they have in here, clear the vanity, make sure any excess items, you stuff them in these drawers, and we just declutter the entire space, right? They actually have a skylight right here. I think I showed that. And yeah, we just want to give the bathroom a nice cleaning, right? If you're gonna do this yourself, that's fine. If you have time constraints, you can hire a professional cleaning company who can get that done for you and save you some time. So I'm gonna give the master bedroom presentation a 10 out of 10 because this is one of those spaces that actually sell the home. So we gotta make sure that it's in pristine condition. Okay, so let's head back downstairs and let's talk about the last thing on this list that's actually gonna make or break the sale of your home. And that last thing is the price. So here's the unfortunate truth. We can do everything right. Every previous item that I mentioned, we can do it right to the T. In fact, we can have the best marketing, we can have the best photography. The property could generate millions of views across different social media platforms and other forms of media. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, the Washington Post, the Washington Journal. It could be featured on ABC, CNBC, MSNBC, Fox, CNN. If the home is not priced right, it's not going to sell. So if you live in a neighborhood where 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 2,000 square foot homes like yours are selling between $700,000 to $720,000 depending on the square footage, and your home is on the market at $795,000, it's not going to sell. Because when buyers and their agents do their research and see that similar homes comparable to yours are selling for $80,000 or $90,000 less, they're going to be like, what's going on here? And they're just going to, go down the block and put an offer in on another home. So even though you might be willing to negotiate, they're thinking, man, I'm at 720, the home is listed at 790. Yeah, I don't want to offend the seller, right? So buyers come to these conclusions that you might not be willing to negotiate the price, even though you are, right? Maybe you would just test and high to see what happens, but usually that hurts you because the longer you're on the market, buyers start thinking, what's wrong with this house, right? And the house could be perfect. The house could have been built yesterday and it could be in great shape. But unfortunately, that's the default thought that goes to buyer's mind is this home has been on the market for 190 days. What is wrong with it? Well, nothing's wrong with the house. It's just not priced properly. So for pricing, I'm going to give this an 11 out of 10. It is so important that you could even be off with some of the other items that I mentioned. You could be off. But if the home is priced right, the price will compensate for that, because price, when it comes to selling real estate, price fixes everything. So that's the last item on the list. Very important. It gets an 11 out of 10 for me. Now, there's so many other things that I didn't mention in this video just for the sake of time and to keep this as comprehensive as possible. There's so many other moving parts when it comes to selling your home, like the professional that you hire to do it, how well they can negotiate when offers start to come in, and things like that that I didn't, necessarily get into. And a few other items that can be done with the house to make it shine and stand out. So if you're thinking of selling a home in the DC metro area and you like to have a conversation about getting that process started, feel free to reach out to me, shoot me a text, call, email. All my contact details are in the description below. And until next time, catch you in the next video.